everyone. Happy 4th of July weekend. I hope everybody has a safe and healthy 4th of July weekend. Um, Welcome to a Senior Citizens Forum. I'm Janice Wood. The Senior Citizens Forum is presented by Benefits for You 2 Insurance Services. At Benefits for You 2 Insurance Services, we provide Medicare insurance. That means Medicare supplemental plans, Medicare Advantage plans, and prescription drug plans. We also do health insurance, and we are now just started getting into the market for small group health insurance. But today we're going to be talking about what to do with your existing life insurance policy. And I have my friend here, John Hung, who I'm so happy to say I got to meet him in person a couple of weeks ago. It was great. I thought I was going to be there 45 minutes talking to him, and all of a sudden it was 2.5 hours later, and we still have lots to talk about. So I enjoyed that conversation. John's been on a Senior Citizens Forum several times. The last time he was on February 28th. And we talked similar to the subject that we're talking now, but we're going to talk about it a little bit differently with different information for you. So if you want more information, go back into our broadcast, either from Facebook, YouTube. We also podcast, Instagram. And even I think you find us on LinkedIn also. So, John, I had a friend contact me several weeks back about her late 80s parents who have life insurance. She said all of a sudden their insurance policy was going high. The premium was increasing, the monthly premium. And then she said, then there were some other policies there I just don't understand. So I want to talk about that. But from that scenario, I want to go into something else really different. She said, my parents don't really trust somebody knowing about their personal business. So I wanted to talk about, before we get into the insurance part of it, what does it mean to be a life insurance agent or any type of insurance agent? And what should you be looking for in an insurance agent? And how we get licensed and how we continue with those licenses. So you want to start with some of that, or?
Sure, sure, absolutely. I think it's important for everyone to really safeguard their information and also to understand that you can't really trust everyone, even though we want to. We have to be selective, especially when it comes to our money, love, and important things. So I could only say, and based on my experience, at one time or another, I bought things too in life, like life insurance. And you always wonder, when I'm giving my social security number, what is this person doing with this information? Looks like it's just been written on the paper. So there are a lot of questions you have to ask. But I think one of the biggest things that you have to ask is you have to really get to know that agent. You can't just simply say, "Oh, it looks okay, so we're fine." No, ask the question. Ask the right qualifying question as a client. Of course, the right thing as as an agent, I must also ask the right question to my client for them to understand the process. And by understanding the process, they would know that you and I and many other agents are regulated by the state of California. We have to take a license and renew them every other year. Some cases seems like almost monthly or daily. There's some type of renewal happening. There's some type of classes that we have to take to keep up to date about regulation. But I think the biggest thing that we also have to consider is that we also have our own personal name out there. our own personal guarantees out there. So because of that, I am very, very selective as well who I work with. I do not want to just simply obtain somebody's information for the sake of providing life insurance, but I want to form a relationship where he or she will feel comfortable giving us the opportunity to accomplish their mission in life. So I would say there's so many different ways to go about this, and I think Janice, you probably have so many options for this clients as well. But for me, I think when it comes to it, you're just gonna have to follow your heart and just
Well,
yeah, go
one
with that.
of the things that I would be looking at is that, you know, you can go online and sometimes things are posted online about insurance
Oh
agents.
yeah,
That's one
correct,
thing you
correct.
can do too. One of the things I know as a life insurance agent, uh, every year or every 2 years, we have to take a test. And part of taking the test is that we have to take things like fraud, waste, and abuse. We have to take
Yeah,
another test on how do you handle personal information, okay? How do you safeguard that information? And now in the computer world, and we're always hearing about hacking, and I've done shows not with John, but with a friend of John and mine, Arash Ghassana, where we talked about security. Now the insurance companies keep building in more and more security for your private information. And
right.
one of the things you want to look at is that, is the agent only interested in providing you a product without knowing about you? And if that's what's happening, because you want an agent that you can trust.
I
So how can you
absolutely.
trust that agent? Maybe you've been referred to that agent by a friend who's had a good experience. Maybe you've gone on the internet. A lot of people will go on places like Google and Yelp, even on Facebook, and look for comments that are made about the agent and how they felt
Yeah,
about them.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but and your information is safeguarded, and insurance agents are licensed. Now, are there dishonest insurance agents out there? Yes. We're both going to make a face. I love your face that you just made. There are, I mean, uh, but do some homework about the insurance company that your insurance agent is representing, or companies,
Yes,
okay? And you
yes,
can
ma'am.
do that. Now, I know we all get phone calls. If you're getting a phone call asking about health insurance, life insurance, most of the time, uh, unless you put in some kind of request, an insurance agent isn't usually going to give you a phone call. It has to be some form of a lead, okay? And a lot of people don't even answer their phones anymore if they don't recognize the number. So I send out text messages, okay? So there's a lot of different things. You want to know, make sure, ask the insurance agent things about themselves, what companies they represent, okay? Things that will
Well,
make you comfortable. And if you find that the insurance agent isn't trustworthy, there are mechanisms that you can use to report that insurance agent. Because one of the things a reputable insurance agent doesn't want is to have a complaint put in against them.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, that never ever should happen.
That should
Yeah.
never happen because we don't want to lose our license. And one thing other that would put up a red flag for me, and this question is always asked me, I get it all the time. Well, how do I pay you?
Hmm.
Okay. And how insurance agents get paid is from the insurance companies that you will select. Okay. So if an insurance agent comes to you and says, well, I want $100 for this consultation, I would be telling that insurance agent, I can't do business with you.
Yeah. Well,
That's a
there
big
must be,
red flag.
yeah,
Okay.
different capacity.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to touch that because I know a lot of people are so uncomfortable, especially in this day and age with being computers and things can get hacked.
Yeah.
But I know from
Easily.
health insurance to life insurance to even property and casualty insurance, they keep putting in safeguards. That's all I can
Absolutely.
think, because I know I'm always
Yeah.
having to learn something new to get into a system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I may just add one thing, Janet, maybe the viewer should maybe keep in mind that you should ask every agent that you speak to about their process in their business from beginning to the end. Ask them to take you step by step. What am I expecting? Once I sign up with you, am I gonna get a call from you? Am I getting a signature page from you by email? Like there's so many different processes that we should aware the client so they're not blindsided, they're not stranded out there in the desert saying what's going on. But if the agent could clarify that this will be the process that we operate, and because of that, everything that we are supposed to do, including money, security, and all are in check and balance. That's what you want to see. You never want to see anybody just doing a free willy and saying, "We'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." You do
Yeah.
want to worry about it. It's a big issue, right?
I know John and I have both had the experience where we've talked to somebody either on the phone or in person, or a lot of us are now using social media like Zoom to talk with people. Okay. And the question will be asked, well, my former agent, I never heard from them again. And I
It's
know
the
one
worst.
of the things that John and I are both interested in is keeping up with you if there's changes in your life. Okay. Things change over a matter of time.
Absolutely.
Maybe you were single, then you got married and things changed. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe there's children involved. Maybe you own property, okay? Or maybe now you're responsible for your parents. I know people in that are seniors that are still responsible for their parents. So that leads me into my friend, to going back to her that started all of this. So what do you do with that term insurance that you've had forever and ever? Okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the premium goes sky high.
Yeah.
And just
Absolutely.
and just real quickly, explain what term insurance is, and then we'll go into why it went sky high.
Yeah. So there's a study that Prudential Life Insurance put out, which is a very pertain to our topic here. It's 6 ways to use life insurance. And basically, you have to understand what life insurance is first, that they're divided into permanent and term life. Permanent sounds very easy to understand, but it's permanent, doesn't have any changes or nothing. However, there's a term policies which allow you to purchase it based on years, maximum usually up to 30 years. So depending on what you have, are gonna change in premium, but however, how you use that life insurance will not change, whether it's a term life or whole life. What is changing is the longevity in our population. What used to be sufficient are now coming short for a lot of us. So that's why the premiums are going up unexpectedly. And those are something that we believe it could be prevented by working with an agent who has a process of what we call policy review. Each year, we're encouraging our clients to look it over your policies because as we're going to talk about 6 ways to use life insurance, you'll find out that this is a very valuable piece of a contract. So I believe the term life insurance in itself is not a bad insurance. even if the premium goes up, it may not be a bad insurance because a lot of times insurability is a big issue as
Now,
well.
yeah, if I have a policy, okay, say I'm 85 years old, and chances are if I'm 85 years old, I probably have some form of health conditions. And I all of a sudden it goes from, I'm making up a figure, $100 a month to $300 a month. Okay, I'm on a fixed income. What would you recommend I do with that insurance? Because I no longer can afford it, but I still want to have some form of insurance. All
Okay.
this money that I paid into it for 30, 40 years is now gone.
Yeah. So depending on what part of the contract you are in, it might be more feasible to act. If there are clients who are honestly at age at 85, I must know that person a little bit more, but it might not be a good time to ask that question at that age. That question should have been asked way, way, way long ago, even at the time of the retirement or before retirement. Can I keep this up once I retire, premium wise? Would there be changes along the way? And is any agent reminding me of the situation that I have a term life that needs to be modified or continued on based on a premium that I could afford? So that's where I feel like could have been prevented. But if you must solve the situation, we could look at it a few different ways. Number one, if the policy could be converted into a whole life, like permanent life, and a lot of term life insurance company will let you do that before the policy expires or before the conversion period expires. It's based on contract, but if there is an option, the client now has a policy that they could convert it into a whole life, which makes it a one fixed premium rather than a continuous increased premium insurance. And also going forward, they will accumulate cash value and other incentives that will all make it ultimately better. So there is that situation. But if the conversion option is not taken advantage of, and supposedly the client just found out at the last minute at age, certain age, then yes, there is no solution to this. The contract is well written that you must follow the rules. And this is where agent comes in, like we talked about earlier. You must ask that agent, am I going to talk to you going forward?
Yeah.
Am I
So,
going to get any reminders?
so if I'm 70 years old, okay, or I'm 85 years old, would I have to pass a physical examination again?
Yeah, so if you must ask about the age, the 85 sounds very questionable for me right now to answer because that seems like a age that is not convertible at all. But the 70-year-old, it seems like that is the perfect age to convert. Matter of fact, that is a lot of policy allow you to convert at age 70. So if you did convert at age 70, good news is that you no longer need a medical because you'll be converted at the same rate that you were approved at, whichever age you were approved at.
So when you're talking about rate, what do you mean? That's the premium I would pay on a monthly basis?
Correct, correct. So the premiums are all of our insurance, life insurance policy is based on a premium. The premium is based on your health rate.
Mhm.
So naturally, term life and whole life it itself has a price list based on how healthy or how sick you are. So you do want to take advantage of young age approval if at all possible, rather than a 70-year-old approval, because ultimately the approval might be better. But it's also insurability. Can you pass the physical at 70 to get a life insurance? But whereas if you already have a term that is convertible, that problem is now solved. Of course, there's a second problem to all this. Perhaps that's affordability. But first problem is insurability, foremost more than affordability.
Okay,
Yes.
that, well, let's just say, so one person has to be within their financial means, okay?
Hmm.
And a lot of seniors live on a fixed income, others that I know, many others that don't, okay?
Correct.
Just
Correct.
depends upon what your own expenses are. And can you pass a health exam, or maybe you're
Right.
fortunate in your policy that you don't have to take a health exam. But when I go
No.
from a term, let's say, to a whole life, and we're going to talk about whole life in a couple of minutes to give you more detail, is the face value of that insurance policy going to be the same, or would it be less?
Well, the face value for permanent policy, including whole life, it could be increased based on cash value. So ultimately, there might be a bigger than what it was initially started with. But on the term life insurance, it's usually level where it does not have an increase option. It is set exact amount and exact year, including the premium. How that there's no flexibility on the premium.
Okay, so if I buy on a term insurance, let's say $100,000 policy, okay, it's going to stay $100,000 policy. Am I correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Now we're going to talk about a little bit about whole life, because you talked about whole life a little bit, okay?
correct.
If I convert that term insurance into a whole life insurance policy, okay, I'm going to have a change in my premium. And you talked about cash value or the face value of it. So let's talk about, what does cash value mean, and the face value of it.
Perfect. So that would be great. So the whole life, what we call a permanent policy, is a foremost designed to create a longevity option for a client, whereas term life does not provide that longevity option at a level premium. It has a limitation. So because the insurance company has to provide one's whole life span of a level protection, usually the whole life is more expensive than term life. But when you count the longevity for rest of your life, it might be more affordable that way at the end. However, uh, the whole life is also a type of universal life policy where there's a cash value that accumulates. And there are many ways to explain this cash value. But one of the way we could understand that is that it's accessible for us and our beneficiaries. So assuming that
Can I
you
interject?
wanted to,
Can I
yeah,
look at cash value as I'm putting money into a savings account in the bank, okay?
oh
And
no, you're doing, yeah,
okay, and I and that interest keeps growing. I know you don't get a lot of interest in a bank account, but there is some form of interest. Okay. All right.
yes.
Yeah.
There's a crediting method that we use.
Right.
Each policy is life insurance company could be very similar to what we call bank industry. So in itself, it's not a banking product because it is an insurance product, but it is similar that you do get some type of crediting method. A lot of times there's an interest method that gets added to your cash value, and there are advantage to that cash value that you could obtain by a loan or withdraw. And along the way, you could also surrender the policy and obtain all your money back plus the interest. So there are many ways to plan this policy. That is the reason why the whole, permanent policy has that merit because it's such a flexible policy that you could mold it any way you want, all the way to the last minute. And,
So now that
and
we're building on this, so if I have a term policy, okay, I'm going to go back to the term policy. It's $100,000, and I pass away at age 40 or I pass away at age 85. No matter what the premium is, I'm going to get $100,000.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Now, if I have a permanent policy or a whole life policy, which is part of the permanent policy, and it's gaining cash value, so it's like a savings account, the money keeps going back in. when I originally took out that insurance policy, I took it out because I had I had children. If something happened to me, I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. Maybe I wanted to make sure that my spouse was being taken care of. Okay. So the reason why I had it now at age 65, age 70, or even 55, okay, has changed why I have this insurance policy. So what can I do with that cash value? Okay. Do I have to die first to for my beneficiaries to get that cash value?
No, not at all. I mean, depending on your policy, you might be able to access for sickness, not only for death, but also for any reason you need a cash value. And ultimately, if you do not touch it, it becomes a death benefit, and it becomes the legacy that you intended. It becomes that gift for others that you intended. What the flexibility that we want a lot of time as an insurance owner of insurance is that we hope not to use it, we hope not to need it. So if we were hoping to cover somebody and now grown up to be someone who's much well off than me, perhaps I no longer need this life insurance. And maybe I could say, hey, I don't feel guilty about surrendering this, getting all my money that I've been putting into it, plus the interest. And oh my goodness, there's a tax advantage. So there are a lot of you know advantage to having a whole life.
Okay. So what you're saying is that if I have a whole life policy and I don't want that anymore, I can cash the value out. So we
Correct, correct.
see on television every day, I see somebody getting up and talking about buying your life insurance policy to give you cash.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
may not be what you want to do with that money.
No, I mean I would have to argue about that. A lot of my clients does ask this question.
Hmm.
So we did extensive research on this. First, we got to ask ourselves, why are they spending millions of dollars advertising to get this policy? It's valuable, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you have a term life or whole life or index universal life, it's very valuable because we say in our industry, this is a risk that you cannot avoid. You could transfer this risk to an insurance company, but there's no way to avoid it. So therefore, we're working with a product that will eventually pay out no matter what. So there are investors who feel like, okay, perhaps we could take advantage of people who want to get rid of it or who no longer need it. But it's again selling them in a bargain, if you will. So I would say if you must ask if you want to give it away, ask yourself, can I give it to my family member away? Can I give it to a charity away first? And then ask yourself, okay, no one that I know could possibly use this. Then selling to companies are not a bad idea, obtaining cash value for what you put into it. But if you will, the cash value management is not that hard, where client could do themselves perfectly well and utilize this as one of the assets as almost their real estate to say I could assign a person's name behind this asset and that he or she will obtain this at a tax favorable, which is tax free, at a very quick time for that person to be ready with any type of issue that you could imagine. So, one way you got to ask yourself is, why am I doing this? And if it is for providing money help for someone you love, oh my goodness, this is done. That's what this job is about. But it also leaves a legacy, big time. Whether that legacy stays within the family where you want to help the grandchildren, your children might not need help, but you want to pay off the grandchildren's education. As you know, in our world, the beneficiary could be changed and assigned based on what client wants. So a lot of clients say, "Hey, I signed it to my daughter." No, I mean you could change it to granddaughter based on the need. So as an owner, again, please reach out to your insurance agent and ask for review. Who is my beneficiary? What happens if I die? Do I have a longevity plan on this plan? And do I even have an insurance agent? Because a lot of times the term insurances are sold through automatic process where you want to reach out to insurance brokers such as myself and say, are you licensed with this carrier? And can you help me? If you have a prudential policy, there must be an agent with prudential license could assist you. And he or she, including myself, will gladly go over the necessary points that the client needs to know. And the other thing that we also want to consider is that there are a lot of insurance policy, if you act quickly, that could be modified in so much better ways. One of the things that you and I talk about all the time is long-term care. Holy cow.
Holy cow.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So new study came out, Janet, that says it was 60% not too long ago. That says that someone over 60 is gonna have some type of a chronic illness, right? So now it's 70%. So I mean, it's almost not gonna be 100% going forward. I can't say, of course. I'm just highlighting the situation, but I feel like we need to prepare for that more. And if you're young enough where you're still working, where you still have a policy that are from the old ages, you should really think about upgrading your policy to include riders such as illness rider or cash value rider or longevity rider, where you could really prepare for the future at an economical rate rather than
But,
asking yourself, you know.
but if I had a straight, let's say, whole life policy, and that I started out with $100,000, and over the years, it's turned into $500,000. Okay, or because I've never touched it, and
Okay.
now I want to look at it, and I'm reviewing some of the stuff that you just said. I want to set up uh, some money to go to my grandchildren. Okay, and there's several different avenues that you can take. You can actually start a life insurance policy for them, or you could start some other type of fund for their education. Maybe you have a charity that you want to leave things to. Maybe your children are well enough off, or maybe you don't have any children, okay? And you have charities that you want to leave that money to. Maybe all of a sudden you have a health insurance policy, okay, that doesn't cover you can't move outside of that health insurance policy. I mean, your health insurance policy, because it's maybe an HMO or a PPO that limits you, but you want to see a different doctor that's outside that your insurance policy doesn't cover. You can now take that money, some money out of that policy, and pay for maybe those medical expenses that are not covered under what your
Correct.
insurance are. And usually because
Correct.
you
Correct.
deal with Medicare, it's the rules are a little bit different. So things become expensive. Then of course, what John says, Medicare only covers you for 100 days in a skilled nursing facility. So that sometimes is called a rehab center or a convalescent hospital. After that 100 days, you have to pay for everything else. So maybe you want to go back to that life insurance policy that has that cash value built into it to pay for that. Okay. And then one other area that I know was totally uncomfortable, but this is what life insurance is about. Final expense. You may want to take some of that money to pay for your final expense to make sure that those arrangements have been made.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, and life insurance is for planning for the future. And what do they say? Bad things happen to good people. And it's just,
I don't know.
I mean,
Yes.
it's not the best the best thing to say, but that's why you take out life insurance for the unpredicted things that are going to go on in your life. And because our life expectancy up until a year ago was a lot longer, as I heard
Right.
that it's gone down, the life
Yeah.
expectancy, because of the,
I would say to all viewers, including you, Janet.
yeah. So there's so many things to do with it. I mean, maybe, you want to take cash value out for something fun, like a vacation that you always wanted to go on, or maybe that fancy sports car. I'm just, throwing things out. There's so much you can do with that cash value. And that's why talking to somebody like John is such a valuable thing to do, because he can help advise you on what you can do with those policies that you took out years
Yeah.
ago, and now you have them now, and what is the best thing to do with it.
Yeah.
And and be careful with that person that calls you on the phone.
Eventually, you do want to ask the right question. And you
Right.
want to do your own study, do an own homework. But it could be done very simply by just simply asking the right question. How do you do yours? Process. But and this also comes back to us though. As a life insurance agent who holds a license, we also hold the obligation to do our best to provide the information that we know that could help the client.
Mhm.
So this is where I must ask all agents to really study more, get to know more your product more, get to know in and outs of everything, because everybody's counting on you for good recommendation and also advice. And at the same time, we also need to hold very, very important things in front of us that this is all for the client. Then once you focus on that, I think the answer is going to be obvious to everybody. It's not about term life. It's not about permanent life. It's about what the client needs and us and going with it and sticking with the plan along the way. It's a long, long process. We might have started at age 20, still working on at age 75.
You're always
So
working on it. Now, I
yeah,
know one thing, if an agent comes in and they're not asking you questions about what your needs are, like, oh, do you like to travel? Do you like to go to the
yeah,
concerts? They need to do what they call it a needs analysis, okay?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
to find out what your needs are, because I know just in our conversation with John and I, we have completely different needs because of where we're at in life at this present time. So, and I can sit across from somebody who's exactly my age, and our needs are completely different, absolutely completely different. So, you want that agent to know about their needs, and that agent, a reputable agent, is going to protect your personal information. And
Yeah,
yeah, so I don't know how much to reinforce that. And you want somebody who's like John, who's totally cares about his clients, and you can tell if you call John because he's a referral. How do the people talk about this person? What do they have to say about him? Ask him. If you're watching this show, we know that you're on the internet, okay? So go ahead and use your resources. And if an agent comes in and they are showing you a product from any company that's out there, go ahead and research that company if that makes you feel better. Because the information on all these different reputable companies are out there. And John and I both know there's thousands of insurance companies, big ones, small ones. So, what is their liability? What do they do with that money? Okay. Your money. how's it best going to meet your personal needs? So I don't know what else to say.
Well, yeah, I think you said everything that needs to be said. It's, as an individual, though, we have a choices. We could do something about it or not do something about it. But this is where we don't want anybody to be 85 asking this question at the last minute. Rather, let's ask before. Right?
Right. But I know the people that I were talking about that's in this age group, I have a feeling in the next couple of weeks, they're going to set up an appointment with, because they know me personally and I know their comfort level is going to be feel better because I'm going out with John and I'm going to do the personal introduction. Uh, we're going to talk to them about what it is they have and to make sure that it's there for their beneficiaries.
Yes.
And it's used and how they want to use it. And is it worth to keep that term insurance? And I have no idea how much it's going up, but I know it's going up a lot. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
and I
Yeah.
have no idea what the face value of it is either, or how much
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
there's so
For
many
the
questions
yeah.
to ask and so many variables. It's just like if you were to go to pick up and move, what are all the different variables that you need to know about in moving? And that's the same thing with life insurance or any insurance that you purchase. And I hope this has helped you out. Also, like I said earlier, John's been on my show. Last time was February 28th, and we talked similar about the same subject, but I know different information has come out today. So please go back and look at that show. Here's how you can contact myself or John. Um, and see what we can do. Either one of us can do to help you. Just real quick, open enrollment time for Medicare insurances starts on October 15th. If you have not had those reviewed, your Medicare insurance reviewed over the last couple of years, please do so because you may like the benefits you have, but you may not be aware of some of the benefits that are part of the insurance. They change every year. So please give me a call, email us. All of our information is on here. And John, it's a delight again, always to be with you.
Thank
And
you.
we're about through. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful 4th of July.
Nice
Bye.
seeing you, everyone. Bye bye.